June 18, 2025. A sweltering afternoon in the town of Gadwal, Telangana. Tejeswar's family reported him missing. The 26-year-old, married for exactly a month, had suddenly vanished without a trace. No one was there when he left home. No final call. No farewell message. Just gone. 3 days later, the bloated body of a man was found at the bottom of a canal in Andhra Pradesh, more than 150 kilometers from home. He had a tattoo on his arm that read, Amma, Mother. When the police identified him as Tejeswar, the question began to arise. Who wanted him dead, and why? But no one expected that the killer was the young wife he had married just 30 days earlier. A brief marriage, a mysterious death, a wife, a mistress, a contract murder, and a biological mother who helped push the trigger. The seemingly simple case gradually reveals dark depths: sex, betrayal, cold planning, and the desire to escape. This is a true story, the story of Tejeswar, of Aishwarya, and of Tirumal Rao, the lover of his mother, and later, the lover of his daughter. The case gripped 2 states, rocked the Indian media, a criminal conspiracy that began with love and ended in tears, blood, and handcuffs. Tejeswar, full name Tejeswar Reddy, was born in 1999 and lives in Gadwal town, Telangana state. He works as a land surveyor, regularly surveys terrain, maps, and helps real estate projects determine legal boundaries. The job was not too flashy, but it was steady. In his spare time, he was an amateur dancer. Videos of Tejeswar dancing at festivals or small weddings were shared by his relatives on social media. He smiled brightly, his eyes sparkled, his feet were agile as if nothing could stop him. His family was middle class. Tejeswar was the only son, much loved by his mother. To his neighbors, he was a gentle, polite boy who had never quarreled, argued, or gotten into trouble. He believed in love, and he loved the wrong person. Aishwarya is 23 years old, a petite, pretty, and gentle woman. Her family is not well off. She used to work at a private bank in Kurnool town, Andhra Pradesh state, as a service officer. But what complicates things is the relationship between Aishwarya and her manager, Mr. Tirumal Rao. Tirumal Rao, 42, was Aishwarya's senior by almost 2 decades. He was a bank manager, married with children, but in an unhappy marriage. Ever since Aishwarya started working at the bank, something more than colleagues had developed between them. More importantly, before Aishwarya, her own mother, Sujatha, was also a tea girl in a bank, and Rao's lover. When Aishwarya took her mother's place, the transfer relationship seemed to continue. From mother to daughter, both involved with the same man. For Rao, Aishwarya was more than just a mistress. He had said he would divorce her and start a new life. But the social, moral, age, and financial barriers were not small. So to avoid scandal, Rao and Aishwarya secretly concocted a plan: marry Aishwarya to a man outside the game, someone who was easy to control, easy to get rid of. That man, unfortunately, was Tejeswar. On May 18, 2025, the wedding took place. No fanfare, no pictures. When asked why she chose Tejeswar, Aishwarya simply said, "He's nice, I like him." Tejeswar fell in love quickly, fell in love for real, not knowing that his fiancée was in love with someone else planning to kill him. Her mother, Sujatha, did not object to the affair between her daughter and Rao. On the contrary, according to her later testimony, she was the one who knew, kept quiet, and assisted. She had slept with Rao, and now her daughter had replaced him. She had received money and had met privately to discuss the murder plan. A mother who was supposed to protect her daughter had instead helped push her deeper into darkness. Rao did not do it himself. He hired 3 poor young men from Andhra Pradesh who had gone to the bank to borrow money. Rao lured them by promising to approve a loan of 2 lakh rupees, nearly 60 million Vietnamese dong, if they would do a small favor. That was murder. In the eyes of these young men, this was a chance to change their lives, Rao not only paid, he also painted a vision. After this, you will live a comfortable life. Just do it neatly. No one will find out. After the wedding on May 18, 2025, Tejaswar moved in with his wife in their own house. In the early days, neighbors saw him as cheerful. He boasted that he had married a young, gentle, caring wife. No one knew that. Everything was an act. Aishwarya kept in touch with Tirumal Rao. They texted, called, sometimes secretly meeting in other towns. Later recordings revealed that less than a week after their wedding, Aishwarya was complaining that she was tied down, disgusted being around my husband, and wanted it all to end as soon as possible. Rao made no secret of his jealousy. He once sent a text message, "I can't stand you sleeping with someone else even on paper. Either he disappears, or you leave me." Aishwarya replied, "I can't take it any longer. If there's a way to make it all go away, then do it." In June, Tirumal Rao began approaching 3 young men in Andhra Pradesh who had come to the bank to ask for loans. He knew they were desperate. He made them an irresistible offer, kill a man, in exchange for 2 lakh rupees and a promise never to be caught. They planned it meticulously, lure the victim to go surveying land on the border of the 2 states, choose a deserted area with no cameras or phone signal, put him in a car, then kill him. On June 16th, Tejaswar received an urgent work call. A stranger introduced himself as a new client and wanted Tejaswar to survey a plot of land near the Andhra Pradesh border. Despite the late hour, Tejaswar nodded, as he always did when he was working overtime. He said to his wife, "I will probably be back late. Have dinner first." Aishwarya just nodded gently. "Be careful." That same night, his phone lost signal. The next morning, no one reached him. The family began to worry. His mother, who was always sensitive to premonitions, said, "I felt uneasy, like something was wrong. He never left without calling." They called Aishwarya. She said, "I thought he had gone to my mother's house. I went to bed early and he didn't come." The family searched everywhere, posted a missing persons notice, called the police. On June 18th, an official missing person report was filed. But when police began investigating, they discovered something strange. Tejaswar's phone had last been located in a canal in Kurnool, Andhra Pradesh, more than 150 kilometers away from where he lived. She went back to her husband's hometown, crying, complaining that she didn't expect her husband to go missing somewhere, that maybe he was bored with this marriage and maybe committed suicide. But something was wrong. The police asked about her husband's last call. She answered evasively. Her phone suddenly had its data reset, and the messages with Tirumal Rao disappeared. The evening of June 16th, 2025. It was scorching hot. There was no moon. A dry wind blew across the outskirts of Kurnool district, Andhra Pradesh. Tejaswar sat in the passenger seat of an old hatchback. The man who called himself the customer was driving. 2 other men sat in the back pretending to be investment partners. Tejaswar found nothing strange. He had done this kind of survey hundreds of times. The car turned onto a deserted dirt road, abandoned fields on both sides, no lights, no people. Seconds later, the action began. A tight cloth rope from the back seat was wrapped around his neck. Tejaswar struggled, mouth mumbled, hands tried to push, but a small knife was already embedded in his left hip. Blood spurted. The car shook. He fought back in vain. He squeezed harder. The knife was pulled out, stabbed repeatedly into the chest, once into the neck, once across the ribs. A sharp intake of breath. Blood dripping onto the floor. A low moan, then no more. Tejaswar, the newly married man, breathed his last in the filthy car in the middle of a deserted field. They opened the car door, dragged his body out. Blood dribbled onto the ground. One of the assassins grabbed his leg, the other his arm. They threw his body into the canal that ran along the field. The water was black and smelled of garbage and cow dung. He sank. No scream. No witnesses. Only the cold water swallowed up the crime. Then, they covered their tracks. The strangulation cloth was burned. Blood-stained clothes were thrown in the reeds. The murder knife was thrown far away from the scene. Tejeswar's phone was broken, the SIM card removed, and thrown into the gutter. They returned to the bank. Tirumal Rao was waiting. He paid the rest of the promised amount. The deal was done. He called Aishwarya. "It's done. You're free." That night, Aishwarya was still at home. She switched off her phone, fell into a deep sleep, and at the bottom of the canal, Tejeswar drifted away. His body began to decompose. His blood dissolved into the water. No one knew. The next morning, the police received a report from people near the canal. "There is a strange smell. Very strong. Very unpleasant." A patrol team came to check. Among the floating duckweed, they saw a human hand floating. On the arm was a faded tattoo. Still legible were 2 words, Amma. At that time, no one knew who this person was. It was only when they connected the tattoo to the missing person case in Telangana that they identified. The victim was Tejeswar. June 18th, 2025. Early morning. In Konidina village, Prakasam district, Andhra Pradesh, a farmer was drawing water from a canal to irrigate his field. He smelled a strange smell, fishy, foul, and pungent, coming from the canal bed. Thinking that there was a dead animal floating, he walked closer. But then, what was floating in the water, Hyacinth, was not a dead animal. It was a human hand. On that arm, 2 words were tattooed. Amma, mother. He shouted loudly. He called the neighbors. A crowd gathered. The local police were immediately informed. The police arrived quickly. The body was blistered and beginning to decompose, but was still intact enough to be identified. There were multiple stab wounds and strangulation marks on the body. The left arm was broken, and there were traces of a cloth strap around the neck. The police recovered the body. Preliminary examination at the scene determined that this was a deliberate murder, not an accident or suicide. The body was taken to the Kurnool town morgue. The news was passed on to the federal police system, and soon Tejeswar's name appeared in the missing persons register of Telangana. Tejeswar's family was called. His mother was the first to enter the identification room. When she saw the Amma tattoo on her son's arm, she collapsed. There was no doubt. Her only son was dead, and very dead. She fainted. Her relatives had to help her out. The whole town of Gadwal was immersed in an atmosphere of mourning. Friends, colleagues, neighbors came. Everyone was shocked. A kind, gentle young man who had made no enemies. How could he be so brutally murdered? Immediately, the investigator turned his attention to the young wife, Aishwarya. She did not go with her family to receive the body, nor did she seem shocked by the news. When summoned for questioning, she said, "I don't believe it. It must be someone else. Tejeswar said he was going to his mother's house. I thought he was just angry with me and would be gone for a few days." She didn't ask about the cause of death, didn't cry, didn't ask to see the body, didn't ask any questions about the case, just cold, calm, as if she already knew. The police retrieved the location data from the victim's phone SIM. The last location was near the canal, the very place where the body was found. A team of investigators returned to the scene. This time they found the first piece of evidence, a piece of cloth with bloodstains matching the fibers used to strangle him. Nearby was a rusty knife with a curved blade and a wooden handle, identified as the murder weapon. In the grass ditch, the police found the back cover of the Samsung Galaxy phone that Tejeswar had been using. From there, the case officially turned into a criminal investigation. After the body was discovered, a forensic team was dispatched from Kurnool. They returned to the canal area, extending a perimeter around the dirt road the car had driven on. In the reeds more than 10 meters from the water's edge, They found a piece of cloth, half-cut with blood and hair still stuck to it. The cloth had been washed but not completely bleached. Nearby was a small rusty kitchen knife with a cracked wooden handle. Forensics later confirmed that the blood on the knife matched the victim's DNA. There were also long skid marks on the ground, worn tire tracks imprinted on the red dirt. The police took photographs, took soil samples, and reconstructed the killer's movements. Forensic examination confirmed Tejaswar died of strangulation leading to suffocation, then was stabbed 5 times in the abdomen, chest, and neck. There were symmetrical marks on the neck, proving that 2 people strangled him from behind. The knife wound on the abdomen showed that the victim was stabbed while he was still alive, and his body's reaction showed that he tried to resist. There were scratches on his wrists and elbows, indicating that he struggled violently. Judgment. The victim was attacked suddenly from behind while sitting in the car, unable to defend himself. Estimated time of death: the evening of June 16th between 9 and 10 p.m. Police immediately searched traffic cameras along the Gadwal-Kurnool route. A blurry camera captured a silver hatchback driving into a field near the canal at 8:57 p.m. on June 16th. The license plate number was unclear, but the route matched the last known location data of the victim's phone. From there, the police expanded their investigation, tracing the phone number that had contacted Tejaswar the previous week. An unknown phone number. The phone number belonged to a man named Mohan, living in Nandyal town, Andhra Pradesh. The police arrested Mohan. After several hours of interrogation, he collapsed. Mohan confessed, "I didn't kill anyone. I just helped set up the scene. Rao told me to follow him for a few days. Whenever he was free, I would call him pretending to be a customer to rent land. I didn't know it would turn out like this." From Mohan's testimony, the police identified the 3 main killers: unemployed young men who had come to Rao's bank as a manager to ask for a loan. Within 24 hours, all 3 suspects were arrested in 3 different villages. During interrogation, all 3 confessed to the entire plan. It was Mohan who called Tejaswar to invite him for the survey. Rao advanced 2 lakh rupees and promised to pay more when the job was done. Aishwarya knew about the plan from the beginning, and it was she who texted the killers to confirm that her husband had left the house so that they would know when to strike. Police arrested Tirumal Rao at the bank where he went to work as usual, as if nothing had happened. On his phone, despite having deleted a lot of data, recovery software allowed him to recover a series of messages. "Let me know when you're done. Don't let me live like this anymore. Just disappear." At first, Rao denied it, but when confronted with the killer's confession and presented with a recording that one of the suspects had secretly recorded for safekeeping, he broke down. He confessed, "I loved her. She was unhappy with her husband. I wanted to give her freedom. I was wrong, but I didn't mean to kill her, just to scare her." Finally, Aishwarya was taken into the interrogation room. At first, she denied everything, but when the police presented a series of evidence, from text messages, accomplices' statements, location data, and even ATM camera footage showing her withdrawing money to deposit with the killers, she fell silent. Then, after a long pause, she looked straight into the camera and said, "I just want to live freely. I didn't kill, I just didn't stop." Since the case occurred in 2 states, the victim was in Telangana and the body was found in Andhra Pradesh, the case was transferred to a special federal criminal court, which combined prosecution from both sides. The case attracted hundreds of reporters from major channels such as NDTV, Times Now, The Hindu. The court was packed during each hearing. People were intrigued not only by the gruesome nature of the case, but also by the unusual structure of the relationship. An older man loved both mother and daughter. The accused one, Aishwarya, accused of being an accomplice to the murder and also an informant and abettor to cover up. 2. Tirumal Rao, the main conspirator, who coordinated the plan, paid for it, and ordered the murder. 3. Sujatha, Aishwarya's biological mother, accused of being an accomplice, intentionally failing to report the crime. 4. The 3 assassins, who committed the murder with intent. 5. Mohan, who staged and watched and acted as bait. In court, the testimony was like a knife to the heart. Tejaswar's mother sat in the front row. She was thin, her eyes were sunken. She was no longer crying. Her tears had run out. She just stared at Aishwarya, the daughter-in-law she had welcomed into her home like her own flesh and blood. During the trial, Aishwarya kept a low profile, rarely facing the victim's family. When asked about her motive, she said, "I felt suffocated. I didn't love him anymore. I wanted to escape." The prosecutor replied, "So you killed him? Not unilaterally divorcing, not leaving, but choosing to hire someone to kill your husband?" She bowed her head. No answer. Rao appeared haggard, gaunt, with graying hair, a haggard face, but his eyes still shone with a cunning look. He tried to mitigate his crime by saying, "I truly loved her. I thought I would marry her after she divorced me. I only said to threaten, not kill." But a series of electronic evidence, the killer's statements, and security cameras made all denials meaningless. After more than 5 months of investigation and trial, the court sentenced Tirumal Rao, life imprisonment without parole, for masterminding murder, organizing planned murder. Aishwarya, 25 years imprisonment, accomplice to murder, aiding and abetting and intentionally concealing the crime. 3 assassins, 20 years imprisonment each, committing murder for material gain. Mohan, 10 years imprisonment, fraud, abetting attempted murder. Sujatha, Aishwarya's mother, 7 years imprisonment, intentionally failing to report a serious crime. The sentencing was silent. No one cried. No one screamed. Only one mother, Tejaswar's mother, slowly stood up and walked out. She looked up at the sky, closed her eyes for a long moment. Then she turned away, never to look back. The media dubbed the case the marriage of blood and shadows. It is now taught in some law schools in India as a classic example of a crime fueled by silence and greed. A marriage that lasted only 30 days, a death orchestrated by loved ones, and a mother, in pain watching her son betrayed, murdered, and buried underwater by the woman she once called daughter-in-law. If Sujatha, Aishwarya's mother, had told about the illicit relationship between her daughter and her ex-lover, Tejaswar might not have died. If Aishwarya had bravely faced the truth, choosing divorce instead of murder, she wouldn't have lost both her youth and conscience. If Rao had stopped when he knew things had gone too far, he might have turned back. But no one did that. Everyone chose to remain silent. Everyone chose to hide. Everyone chose to cover up their crimes with a warm blanket called love. Rao said he loved Aishwarya, but what kind of love compels someone to kill their husband to be together? Aishwarya said she wanted freedom. But what kind of freedom is built on the blood of the man she once called husband? Love, without respect, without compassion, without reason, is no love. It is property twisted by selfishness, a tool of control, a knife in the hands of the weak. The verdicts have been delivered, the killers are in jail, but Tejaswar will not return. The mother who lost her son, even if she gets justice, will never be able to call to hear her son's voice again or see him dancing at village festivals. The truth is, death, even if rewarded with a prison sentence, is never truly just. This is not just a murder. This is a warning. That extramarital affairs, if not stopped in time, can lead to destruction. That the silence of a mother, the blindness of a lover, and the weakness of choice can kill the innocent. That those who choose to kill instead of leave will forever be guilty of their own souls. There are deaths that begin not with hatred, but with indifference, lies, and greed disguised as love. And there are crimes that never require a weapon, but only a heart that has lost its humanity.